Okay. So we'll be starting with the very first session with the overview of what exactly Selenium is and what all components are there, what is the basic configuration, prerequisites. So these are the things that we are going to cover. At least in the first session, you're going to come to know that what level of programming that is required for Selenium, because there might be some people thinking that we need to write so much code in order to work on Selenium. Do we need to learn advanced programming concepts as well? So in Selenium, if we talk about basic programming language, let's say Java, we need just the core Java part. We don't need any advanced programming. So if you have ever studied basic programming in your school time or graduation time, like C, C++, and you might have studied like basic if, else, loop. So those are the basic concepts which are required to get started with Selenium. And when we come to the framework designing part, then we need a little bit of collections, a little bit of oops concepts. But again, these are all basic programming concepts which you'll find in Python, in C Sharp, in Java, any basic programming language, you're going to find all these concepts, right? So there is no advanced programming we are going to implement in Selenium, right? So don't worry about the programming part because mostly people who learn automation are from testing background, and most of them don't have any understanding of programming, because when we are into manual testing, we don't write any code. So whatever programming that we might have studied during the graduation time, we forget all these concepts. So if you don't practice programming for 6 months, you're going to forget all the concepts, right? But once we start with Selenium, these concepts, you should be able to recall it, and then it will also help you in building up your logics, your base for automation. So these are the things we're going to look at step by step. But before we get started, like very quick in the chat box, just type who all have completed Java. Just write completed Java training, and the new one, just type new one. So people who are joining the very first session today, just type new one, and people who have completed the Java training and starting with the Selenium part, just type completed Java training so that I come to know what audience do we have today. Okay. So we have a lot of new faces today. Java training completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can see that 60 to 65% of audience is joining the very first session today. Okay, that's great. That's great. So people who have completed Java, this is like a recap session if you have attended the very first session for you. So you can still look at the configuration part. We're going to see how to configure Selenium, Java, and other components today. And then from the very next session, you will be in the same batch, in the same WhatsApp group, and a new meeting invite will be shared for the Selenium session, as well as for the people who are attending first session today, you will be receiving a new WhatsApp group and a new meeting invite for the next session. So timings for both Java and Selenium sessions are going to remain the same. That is 8 p.m. IST. 8 p.m. IST till 10 p.m. IST every Saturday and Sunday, right? And like both Java and Selenium batches will be at the same time, because these two trainings are taken by a different instructor. Like for Java, Mr. Ajay is going to take the classes, and for Selenium, I myself will going to take your entire session. So all the Selenium part, framework designing, TestNG, all major integrations, I myself will be covering. It's just that before you get started with Selenium, you're going to get an additional complete detailed training on core Java. So that first your programming base should be built, and then you'll be working on the automation part, right? Okay, so before we get started with the class, is there anything that you want to discuss anything related to the training part or anything that you want to discuss before we get started?
Hello.
Yeah, Manish.
Yes. Hi, Rahul. Actually, I just want to know, as you told that the Java and Selenium class will be the concurrently. So first, will be the Java or Selenium?
First, we'll be going through with the core Java concepts, and then we'll be learning the Selenium.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So total duration, if I talk about total duration, it is going to take somewhere around 3.5 months every Saturday and Sunday. We will be covering latest Selenium 4. We are not going to cover Selenium 3. So latest, the very recent version of Selenium, we are going to cover that, right? Okay. And in this as well, your core Java is going to take at least 6 weeks, and then rest of the 7 weeks will be of Selenium. So this is how it is going to work. Right, and if I show you the syllabus, so this is the latest syllabus where we'll be covering Selenium 4 with core Java, and we are going to do some integrations like Dockers, Jenkins, then basic AWS, cloud integration. So these are the detailed topics that I'll be sharing it with all of you. Once we are done with the session, I'll be sending it to your mail ID so that you can have a look at what all topics we are going to cover. So all these things are practically used in the industry. So we are going to cover everything practical. There is no theory in Selenium, right? So if you talk about, will we be doing practical sessions? So Selenium is 100% practical. We'll be automating live websites. After the training, you'll be capable enough. You can automate any website on your own. Should be able to work on live projects, framework designing, end-to-end framework designing will be doing. Everything will be starting from scratch, right? So very basic ABC, we're gonna start. Yes, we'll be covering grid, we'll be covering form, page object model, we'll be covering data-driven, we'll be covering page factories. So all these things will be covered. Right. Okay, any more questions? Yes, there is a job assistance program as well. There are a lot of companies who get in touch with us for the openings. So we have formed up a Telegram group, and there are other groups as well where you guys will be added, and all the openings, interview questions, resumes, everything will be shared over there. Cucumber,
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, are we going to do a live project or something?
Yes, obviously, we'll be working on end-to-end framework where we'll be automating live websites. It's complete detailed live project will be covering.
We'll do a complete architecture, like how to basically create a complete framework.
Yeah, complete framework from scratch.
Okay.
Dhananjay, Cucumber part, we are not going to cover in the Selenium training, but that is going to be covered in the live batch of API automation. So API automation is actually covered through REST Assured, which is another Java API similar to Selenium. So Selenium, whatever Cucumber framework that works in Selenium, same framework works in API as well. So in this Selenium live training, we are going to cover 2 live projects. And then the third one, we are going to cover it with the integration of API. But Cucumber remains the same. And not only this, if you take a look at this particular library, it's a whole big library of 40 plus courses. So you're going to have lifetime access to all these courses. And in this, in case you want to cover Cucumber with Selenium as well, so there's a detailed course on Cucumber with Selenium. If you go over here, you may gonna see it, the latest Cucumber 7 with Selenium and APM that is covered over here. Not just this, I have created another unique course, which is called as Automation Architect. So that covers 7 live projects. If you go a little down, you'll see this Automation Architect. If you go to this course, then you're going to see live project 1, data driven, then data-driven with integration with Docker, then page object with page factory, then Cucumber with integration with page object, page factory, TestNG. And if you go down, this is extended version of page objects using multi-threading, Java generates, all advanced concepts. Then Cucumber with parallel execution using thread. So these are the 7 detailed live projects which are included in this course. So you're gonna have complete lifetime access to all these courses. So all major automation tools that are there in the industry, you're gonna find it in this library. And these are all detailed courses, not just basic one, very, very detailed course. Each and every course is very detailed. So start from very basic and up till advanced level, you're gonna find in each course. Right? See, architect course, see, if we talk about Selenium version is incrementing very frequently. I mean, after every few weeks or few months, you're going to see a new version of Selenium coming into the market, right? So a few months back, it was Selenium 2, then it was Selenium 3, now it is Selenium 4, right? So when I designed this architect level course, it was somewhere around mid of Selenium 2 and Selenium 3. But if we talk about the framework part, frameworks are not designed in Selenium. Frameworks are designed using your core Java concepts. And core Java concepts are never old, right? So core Java, if we have started if, else, oops, since past 20, 30 years, it is same, right? So it's not like core Java, if we have learned code if, else, or switch case, a long time back, now the format has changed, the concept has changed, it's nothing like that. So if we talk about the framework part as well, the framework that we are designing right now, if you want to use the same framework after 1 year, you may need to use the latest APIs. But the core concept, the framework will gonna remain the same. You just need to update to the latest version. And if you have thoroughly studied the framework in the live class, then you should be able to do those changes on your own as well. And if not, then I'll be there to assist you. If you get stuck anywhere, you can reach out to me and I'll help you in fixing up your project. Right?
But sir,
Okay.
why you are not teaching BDD framework here? Because we are attending this class and we can ask questions simultaneously.
BDD, as I said, BDD we are going to cover, but not in Selenium in the API course. But that framework remains the same. You can use the same framework in Selenium as well. It's just that we are already covering 2 live projects in this course. If we add third one, then it will be like more than 4.5 months of training.
Okay.
Right? But we're
Uh,
going to cover the framework in such a way that after going through the first 2 live projects, you should be able to implement the Cucumber BDD as well on your own as well. Just by watching these videos or just by attending the API live back, you should be able to implement the same thing in Selenium as well.
so
Right.
which framework we will cover in this course?
We are going to cover the one of the hybrid framework, which is data plus keyword driven. And then we are going to cover page object model and page factories. Page object model is the most demanding framework. 90% of the companies are using page objects itself. No matter you add another layer of Cucumber BDD on top of this as well, but your base layer will always be page objects. Right? So in your interviews as well, this is the major framework where the questions will be asked from.
But sir, for BDD scenarios are different in Selenium.
Yeah, I understand that. That is what I say. That, I mean, we are going to cover that in the live batch itself, but that will be of the API part, right? So API UI, there is no difference in the framework. Framework is your Java framework. Cucumber BDD, we are going to cover the Java part itself. And that framework remains the same that you do in UI or the API part. It's just a matter of adding a dependency in the same project that you are doing in Eclipse, where you are adding all the dependency of Selenium and other APIs. you'll be adding the Cucumber part and the rest assured part in the same project as well. Right? So framework is not going to change for UI or for the API. Don't worry about that part. Once you study that, the API batch is already going on. So once you cover that Cucumber part in the API, you yourself will gonna see that instead of using rest assured, if you add Selenium, then the same framework is going to work for Selenium as well. Right? And then again, don't worry, don't get confused with the API part, because once you watch this Cucumber from the library as well, this is covered by me only, right? So this is my training itself. So I have designed this Cucumber course. So just implement it as it is, as shown in the video library. And if you get stuck anywhere, you can reach out to me. I'm going to help you in that. Right? But see, in Selenium, there are endless topics. If we keep on covering all the topics, then it is going to take 6 months and more than that to cover all the topics. Right? So the live training purpose is to build your base for automation, to make you work on live projects and frameworks, how we work, how we implement these things in actual organization, right? So that is the stuff we are going to cover in the course. And once your base is built up, then you should be able to do all the other integrations easily on your own as well, just by going through these videos. Right? And if you get stuck anywhere, you'll get complete assistance. Don't worry about that.
So in these days, if we say that we have worked on hybrid framework, then it's fine, or they are specific?
See, hybrid framework is not like any plugin or something like which you need to install. Hybrid is just an approach. If
Yes.
you are combining multiple patterns in one framework, that could be data driven plus keyword driven. We call it as a hybrid. You can also combine data plus keyword plus page objects. You can also add data plus keyword plus page objects plus Cucumber PD. Right? So all the combination of these things, we call it as a hybrid framework. So yes, you can tell that you have worked on a hybrid framework as well.
Because Selenium is base, means after Java we learn Selenium, then we go for REST assured and API testing, and we are
Yes.
not learning means
You can cover API in parallel as well, because if your Java concepts are good, then Selenium, API, APM, these are just APIs. So you can attend these things in parallel as well.
So is there any batch in which we cover BDD framework for Selenium, even in future? Because I
Not at this moment. I mean, in case you want dedicatedly Cucumber part to be covered in the Selenium training, then we may need to skip any one of these framework, either data driven or the page objects, because otherwise it is going to take a long time to finish this particular batch. Right? Because 3.5 months, it is still a big amount of time for some of the people. They want to complete the training as soon as possible and want to start hunting for the automation jobs. So if we keep on adding more things, then it may gonna take 4.5 to 5 months as well to finish the batch. But don't worry, let's just finish these many topics, because these are still huge topics. And once we are done with this, then just watch this Cucumber either in the live batch or from this video library. And if you are unable to understand it, then you can come back to me and I'll help you in configuring the Cucumber BDD part.
Okay, sir.
All right. So anything else, guys? Before we start? Anyone else? Okay. So in that case, we can take rest of the questions like after the session. And then if you have anything to discuss from the topic that we are going to discuss, then you can unmute yourself and you can directly asked me, right? Okay, so let's get started. Just give me a moment. So I hope this lifetime part is clear to everyone whosoever new has joined. So like you are going to get access to all these courses, and plus you can attend all the live batches that the ongoing batches, plus all the future batches that we are going to conduct, be it from any course, Selenium Java, Selenium Python, Playwright, API automation, DevOps, any course that we conduct in a live batch will be free for you for the lifetime. So this is something like a very unique concept. You may not gonna see this anywhere else in the industry. So there are like 7 to 8 instructors associated with us who are taking different live batches. And all these instructors are highly skilled and already working with big organizations in the same domain. Like if I talk about API automation trainer, he is working in Amazon as a developer, a API developer itself. Then we have a Python trainer who conducts Selenium, API, APM, Python batches. So he's working with Times Internet as QA lead itself. So all trainers are from the same background, and that is the reason they're taking these courses over the weekends, because they're available only over the weekends for the live classes, right? And if you talk about my experience, then I used to work as a test manager with one of the company in Gurgaon. I'm having over 15 plus years of experience in software testing itself. I worked as a corporate trainer as well. I've delivered many trainings in NCR, in Bangalore, in Mumbai, even in New York to a company named Shutterstock.com, in Seattle to Spoken Communications. So I have been working on Selenium since the very first version of Selenium was there, that is Selenium 1.0. And then I've worked on most of the automation tools, like I've covered this rest assured, then a lot of courses over here, you'll see my recordings itself. So I've worked on Protractor, I've worked on Cypress, I've worked on Selenium, Python, then JavaScript, even APM mobile automation. This Playwright Java is completely designed by me. So a lot of automation tools, robot framework, these things I myself have practically worked on it and have covered courses on these things as well. But in the live sessions, I only cover the Selenium part related to Java. And then rest of the instructors, there's a dedicated instructor for DevOps who is already working as a DevOps engineer. And the topics, the course that we have designed for DevOps is specifically for automation test engineers, where you'll be learning things related to Jenkins, CI/CD, pipeline, then Git, then Maven, then Dockers, AWS, Azure Cloud. So these lot of integrations are required in automation as well. So if you go through these courses, then it will really going to help you in building up a strong base of automation. And these are the things which are going to give a lot of weightage in your resume as well. Right. So that's what I said. I mean, once you are done with these courses, you should be able to justify your current 2, 3, or 3+ years of experience easily in automation. And then you can switch your current job easily. Right. Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, suppose we show 2 projects in our resume. So we are one for rest assured and one for Selenium. Then we can say, means we can work on 2 different frameworks, means we can say we are working in BDD for rest assured, and we are working for Selenium for hybrid mode.
See, we can have all these REST API and UI combined in one single framework as well. So it completely depends on how you are presenting in the interview. Like you have a separate framework created for REST assured based on the client requirement. There you are using Cucumber. You have a dedicated UI automation framework where you are using Selenium. There you have implemented page objects. So this is, I mean, like how confidently you are telling in the interview, that is what it matters.
But
And then
it happens in real time, both
in
can
real
work.
time, frameworks are designed in such a way where you have a DB layer, where you have a UI layer, you have an API layer, you have mobile layer, all created in one single framework as well.
Okay.
Right. So we'll be discussing about these things in today's session as well. So let's just get started quickly with Selenium. Like the very first thing that we generally see is what exactly is Selenium. So anything and everything that you know about Selenium, just let me know. Anything that you may have studied, you may have worked,
Sir,
just let me know. What exactly is Selenium?
Selenium is a community
It's a
which has which includes different tools like Selenium RC, Selenium ID,
so
Selenium
these are the components of
driver,
Selenium.
yeah, components. Yes.
Selenium, we can say that it's an API that
It's an API.
provides integration, means it allows a website to be automated, and it by using the different programming languages.
Okay. Supports multiple languages. What are languages? Like Java,
Java, Python,
Python, C#,
yeah.
Ruby, PHP, JavaScript, all major languages in the world are supported by Selenium. So very first statement we have written, it's an API for website automation. Anything else about Selenium? It's a library. So API, we can call it a libraries, list of libraries. Okay. Anything else?
Selenium is a tool to automate the browser.
So tools, it's a tool for website automation. So automating
Exactly.
browsers,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Browsers means it has got multi-browser support as well, right? We can run our test on Firefox, on Chrome, on IE, on Safari, on Edge, on Opera. All major browsers in the world are supported by Selenium,
So
right?
Selenium is a community which includes different tools,
Mhm.
RC WebDriver to automate the test cases.
So there is a community that supports Selenium project, right? So it's basically an open source community, right?
Exactly.
So we can call it as like Selenium is an open source API library or tool for website automation. And it contains many components like we have RC, we have WebDriver, we have Grid, we have IDE. These are the four major components that you may have seen in Selenium, right? And then there are a lot of integrations you may have heard. So any integration that you can just list down over here. Okay, before that, there is another answer. It's a framework. Yes, we can call it as a framework as well. And freely available. Yes, that is what open source is. Open source means no license required to work on Selenium. It's completely free of cost. Anyone can download it and can start using it and can start automating any website in the world. So that is what Selenium is. You need not to pay anything to work on Selenium, right? Whereas if we talk about other automation tools, like Selenium has got some competitors as well, like QTP is there. The other name of QTP is UFT, then RFT is there. Other automation tools are also there in the market, which are paid, which are licensed. So prior to Selenium, QTP was very popular in the industry, right? If we talk about automation, if we talk about openings in automation, if you search on any portal, any job portal like Naukri, Indeed, you're going to find a lot of openings related to QTP when you search for automation jobs. But these days, the market is completely different. You're hardly going to see openings related to UFT, RFT, QTP. You'll find majorly openings related to Selenium and other open source automation tools. So why is it that? Why Selenium has taken over the automation industry? What is the reason behind this?
Because it's a open source.
It's an open source, it's free of cost, no license
Exactly.
required to work on Selenium. This is the major reason. This is
Yeah.
not the only reason. I mean, there are many other open source tools as well. So these days, there's another open source tool you may have heard about, which is called as Playwright. So this Playwright is actually designed by Microsoft. So this is also gaining importance these days, right? We have other open source tools like Cypress is there. Prior to Cypress, it was like Protractor was there, right? WebDriver.io, although it's originated from Selenium itself. But except Selenium, there are a lot of other open source tools as well, but they are not highly popular as we have Selenium. So if we talk about automation, then 70% you can say of the companies in automation, they're using Selenium, and then rest 30% are implementing other tools as well. So cost is not the only thing. There are a lot of other factors which make Selenium as one of the most popular or widely used automation tool or framework in the industry. So one thing that we have seen, it has got a multi-language support. So Java, Python, C Sharp, Ruby. Multi-language support doesn't mean that like if my website is built up in let's say Ruby, then I'm learning Selenium with Ruby. Next time, if my website is built up in PHP, then I'm gonna learn Selenium with PHP. It's not like that. So website multi-language support means no matter whichever background you're coming from, if even if you're not from a testing background, you are a developer and you're working as a Python developer, you need not to learn Java. You can use Python and automate any website built up in any language. If you are a Microsoft lover, if you work on C Sharp, .NET, then no need to learn other languages. You know C Sharp, we have a library available for Selenium in C Sharp as well. You can use that library, automate any website built up in any language. That is what multi-language support means. If we talk about another automation tool, which is a competitor of Selenium, like QTP, UFT, anyone knows which language this automation tool supports? Anyone?
JavaScript.
No, not
VBScript.
JavaScript.
VBScript.
VBScript, right? So VBScript is one of the very basic language, and this VBScript is created by Microsoft itself. And VBScript, the drawback of VBScript is that it runs only and only on Windows. So if your client wants that your product should be fully automated and tested on multiple platforms, because end user could use anything. He could use Mac, he could use Linux, any operating system. And client wants that his product should be fully tested on all major browsers, all major operating systems. So whereas if we talk about QTP, it supports only VBScript, and VBScript runs only and only on Windows. So you can test it only on Windows. And the other major thing, the highly supported browser earlier was IE, right? And if we talk about Selenium, like if we just talk about the language Java, if you have ever installed Java on your machine, the very first message you're going to see that 3 billion devices runs on Java. So be it Linux, Mac, iOS, Android, any operating system you name is supported by Java, right? And if you are running your Selenium code in Java, you can execute that code in any operating system that you want, and that too without paying any license. So this is one of the best things to use with Selenium. The other thing, if we talk about QTP, now what QTP, UFT, these are basically tools. So it's like if you want to work on UFT, then you're gonna get a setup file. You double click that setup file on Windows on your machine. It installs that particular software. That setup file could be of 1 GB or more than that. And it is going to do a detailed installation where you're going to get a platform where you can do record and play scripting. You can use n number of features of that tool. But in case of Selenium, it is not like that. Selenium is not a tool. You cannot install Selenium. You don't get any exe file to install on your machine and then do record and play and scripting and other things. It's nothing like that with Selenium. And this is what the best thing of this tool or framework that you say. Because it is not a tool, it has got no boundaries. Means if it is a tool, let's say QTP is a tool, then a tool contains only limited features. Features which are developed by developers. Could be 100 features, could be 200 features. That's it. So you can automate your test cases based on those 200 features only. And when we write test cases, we do a lot of permutation and combination. Even we have to write test cases to to handle the login window. We may end up writing 20 to 30 test cases with different permutation combination. And it doesn't mean that for all the permutation combination, you're going to find a functionality available in QTP to automate that, a feature available in QTP to automate that. Right? Because features are limited. So if a feature is there, you can automate it. If feature is not there, then you're restricted. You cannot automate that functionality. Whereas if we talk about Selenium, it's not a tool. It's not a tool, so it has got no boundaries. Anything that is supported in Java, in Python, in C#, anything that you can do with Java, you can integrate that thing with Selenium. And Java is like an ocean, right? So anything that you can do in Java, you can do that with Selenium. So you have got no restrictions. This is one of the best things that Selenium offers you, right? Anything you want to automate. If the functionality is not there in Selenium, if this can be done in Java, you can integrate that thing with Selenium. But Selenium handles only the UI part. UI as in the front end, the website that you navigate. Let's say you navigate to this website. So you can automate the functionality that you can see on this website. You can automate the functionality that you can see on this website. But there are a lot of other areas where you need to perform testing on, not just website. So even if you do manual testing, you do manual testing on websites, right? Like web-based applications. What all other applications have you tested? Or do you know what all other applications are there for testing? Where testing can be done.
The
Apart from
desktop
this.
application,
Sorry?
desktop application.
Desktop applications. So
Mobile.
QTP can automate web as well as desktop, but Selenium can only automate web-based. Mobile applications. Yes. These days, every major organization, they have their web app as well as they have their mobile application, iOS, Android, right? At times we are traveling, we don't carry our laptop along with us. So most of the time when we do shopping like Flipkart, Amazon, we hardly navigate to these websites. We generally do it on our mobile application. So mobile is also like these application testing are very much in demand these days, not just web-based testing. Yeah, mobile web browsers, you can relate it with web-based testing, but yes, these are done on the mobile application itself. Cloud-based microservices, API, so we can say
web services.
we'll call it as web services, let's say, right? Okay. Anything else? Anything else that you test apart from web-based, desktop, mobile, web services? Web services covers your REST and SOAP. SOAP is almost gone from the market. So 95% of the applications are calling RESTful APIs only. What else?
Database.
Correct. So we do database testing as well, right? We integrate, like we generally fire some queries to the database. Could be anything: MongoDB, SQL, MySQL, Oracle. The purpose of testing is to fetch the records, to validate whether the same record is showing up in the application or not. And there are a number of other things we can do as a part of a database tester as well, right? So we have these areas where we generally do manual testing, and then we automate these things as well. So, but Selenium comes over here. Selenium can automate only and only web-based applications, whereas QTP can all automate web-based as well as desktop-based. For mobile applications, have you heard any automation tool?
APM.
APM, correct. Very widely used in the industry. For web services, any tool?
Postman.
Postman. Postman is for manual testing of the web services. For automation,
REST.
rest assured. Correct. Database, we have different vendors, SQL, MySQL, Oracle, and so on. Right? So these are the areas. But again, Selenium is only for web-based. Then why Selenium? Why Selenium is very, very popular? Why not APM? Why not other automation tools? Selenium will help you in building up your base for automation. And like I said, if we create any framework, be it in any language, we are using Selenium in that framework for automating web-based application. We can integrate all these things in one single framework as well. This is because Selenium is not a tool. You don't have any standalone component called as Selenium, where you can only use Selenium. So you generally create a project, a framework, which is developed in Java, or it is developed in Python, or it is developed in C#. We are talking about Java in this series, so let's take an example of Java only. So we are going to create a Java framework where we'll be adding all these components in one single framework. And we can handle web part, desktop part, mobile part, web services, database. We can automate all these things in one single framework by using different libraries. And Selenium is one of the library for web-based automation. For desktop, QTP is a tool, but we have a library available which is called as WinApp driver. APM, it's not a tool, it's a library. Rest assured, it's a library. All these are Java libraries. Then we have Java libraries available for SQL, MySQL, Oracle, MongoDB as well to perform JDBC, ODBC connection. Right? So all these libraries can be merged in one single project, can be added in one single project, and then using these libraries, we can call the functionality and automate that particular thing, UI or the desktop or the mobile part. Yeah. So yes, Selenium name was actually why this project, this UI automation project named as Selenium. This is because if we talk about QTP UFT, as I was saying, it's a biggest competitor of QTP UFT. So anyone knows which company came up with QTP UFT? Mercury, correct. HP has later on acquired it, right, and then renamed it to UFT. But initially, Mercury is the one who launched QTP. And if you talk about Mercury in general terms, what exactly is Mercury? It's a planet. It's I believe everyone have seen Mercury, not as a planet, but in thermometers, right? So there's a saying: if thermometer breaks and if you intake that mercury, then you're gonna die. So because mercury is a poisonous element, right? And if someone intakes mercury, we give him an antidote. That is what selenium is. So selenium kills mercury. Selenium kills mercury. That is the reason they have given this project name as Selenium. So to end the market of QTP mercury. And up to such an extent, they are successful as well, not just because of the cost, there are n number of factors behind it, which we are going to say in this course. Right, so this is the history, why the name Selenium is given to this tool. But which company came up with Selenium? Anyone knows which company initially came up with Selenium?
So Google or
Google?
Microsoft. ThoughtWorks.
ThoughtWorks, correct. So ThoughtWorks is the one who designed the very first component of Selenium in 2004. There is a developer named Jason Huggins who started this project, right? And he created the very first Selenium core component, which was JavaScript based. And he introduced some of the tools like IDE, RC, Grid, and this was introduced in the version which is Selenium 1.4. So ID, what is ID? What is this ID? What is RC? What is Grid? Let's just discuss these components first. What is ID used for?
Record and play.
Correct. ID is just a record and play plugin, not a tool. It's just a plugin to your browser. Initially, it was supported only on Firefox, but now we have it available in Chrome browser as well, Chrome and even Edge browser. So ID looks something like this. This is not this is the one Selenium ID. This is your Selenium ID. So you can see record a new test in a new project. Give any project name, let's say Google project, and click on OK. And then we give any URL like http google.com, click on start recording. You can see a browser launches and it's showing Selenium ID's recording. Well, whatever action that we are going to perform over here, all the steps are being recorded. And once you are done with all these actions, you can go back over here and then let's close the browser. Let's close the browser and see close action is also recorded. Then we're going to click on stop. We're going to name it as Google test. Click on OK. And then we're going to click on export. And you can see a lot of languages available over here. Before clicking on export, we're going to click on cancel. So once we are done with recording, so what is the purpose of record and play tool? So record and play tool is available almost in every automation tool. QTP UFT has invested their huge amount in the record and play functionality itself. So majorly when we are using QTP RFT, we use its record and play functionality. We record script and then we do modification with that script. Same functionality is there in IDE as well, but this is a very small feature of Selenium. People who are actually working in Selenium, they never use Selenium IDE. And there is a reason behind that, right? It's a very small plugin. Many integrations cannot be done using Selenium IDE. So like I was talking about, in one framework, you can include all these components. If you use Selenium IDE, then you can include only the UI automation part. You cannot include all these. And then not just this, there are hundreds of other automation integration that we need to do. Those things are not supported in IDE because it's just a plugin. Plug into your Chrome, plug into your Firefox browser. You click on this, run all test cases, you'll see all the automation part that you have recorded will be executed, and there are some additional weights and other components that you need to add over here. Like you can see, it gets stopped over here. So you need to add add one more step for adding some weight and then clicking on this particular link, and then it clicks on this. So this is how, I mean, your record and play, and you can see run 1, failure 0. So these are the script that is executed. So normally what people do when they record the script from here, then just a moment. So there is an option for export that was coming. Yeah. So if you click on export, and you can see different languages are available over here. So if we select Java, JUnit, click on export, and we give it a name, we'll go to desktop and say Google test script. And you can see we're getting a Java file. So let's save this. And if you open this file, you're going to see the same Java code showing up over here, where it navigates to google.com, then it is finding something and then typing something, clicking on something, right? So looking at this code, you might be thinking, okay, this is a coding part. This might be a little complex. This is not at all complex. This is a very, very basic part. Once we start doing it, even in today's session, I'm going to show you how whatever action that we have performed right now, we're going to write a code with our own hands, and you should be able to see that the code is very, very simple. It's not that complex. So first of all, you need to get rid of that mindset that coding is very complex. I cannot do coding. Because when I joined, even I joined as a manual tester, and coding was again like a nightmare for me as well. But when I started working on Selenium and I started implementing these things, so slowly and steadily the base is built up, right? And see, what happens is when you learn core Java or any programming language, even if you have studied in your graduation time, so when you're learning that programming, there is no purpose of where you will be implementing that. Let's say you have ever studied C, C++. You may have created different programs for like calculating something or addition program or a multiplication table or n number of programs you may have created. But where you have practically implemented that coding. If you don't practically implement it, you may gonna find that programming is very boring stuff, right? And that is what, if you find it boring, then you'll never be able to implement it or learn the programming part. And if you don't practice those things for another 6 months, you're going to forget all concepts. And then you again need to revise the entire C, C++, whatever that you have studied. With Selenium as well, let's say there are people who have completed the Java training. So now your Java concepts are built up. But if you don't practice those concepts for another 2 weeks or a month, then you again gonna revise the same thing again in the next batch. But now, when you implement those things practically in Selenium, so let's say you have studied if else. Now, when you're automating a website, you may get a scenario to, let's say, click on this button or click on that button, and you may add that if and else condition over there. Maybe just by writing 2-3 lines of code, and when you run your code, you're going to see a browser is launching and the actions are getting performed. And this is where you have to implement that if and else. That is what is going to help you in building up your base. And when the browser is launching in front of you, actions are getting performed, you'll find it very interesting. So when you find it interesting, then the afraid of programming will gonna go away. And that is where you'll be able to understand where you have to use for loop, where you have to use while loop, what is the relevance of oops concept. When you practically implement these things with Selenium, this is going to help you in building up your base. And once the base is built up, you should be able to add API, REST assured, Cucumber, and number of other things, all the integration easily you should be able to do it. So that is why I always say that Selenium is your base for automation. If your base is strong, other things you should be able to integrate it easily. Right? So you need to be focused majorly on the base part. Okay, so this coding is very easy. We're going to look at it. But yes, we are not going to use record and play. Selenium ID is just for record and play. With record and play, you cannot do a lot of integrations. You cannot integrate all these things and many other parts that we're going to discuss about. So ID is not at all used in the industry. Then comes the programming part. So programming part was implemented using this RC library, which we also call it as remote control. So this is a programming library. And then we have grid. So what is grid? Can anyone tell me what is grid?
grid we can use for parallel execution and
Parallel execution,
yeah.
correct? So parallel execution of what? Parallel execution of test cases.
Yeah.
So is this the task of grid to parallel execute test cases? Is grid for parallel testing of test cases? How about others? Multi-platform,
multiple-
multiple machines. Correct. There is another term that is associated with this, which is called as remote test execution. Right? Executing the test remotely. Dheeraj, I guess your camera is turned on. You can just turn it off. Thanks. So grid is not for parallel test execution. There is another framework which is for parallel test execution. Can anyone tell me what is that framework called? Anyone?
Test NG.
Test NG, correct. We have another framework that will be integrating with Selenium, through which we can execute our test case parallel or sequential. Right? So this is a task of test engine to parallelly or sequentially executing our test case. Grid will just gonna distribute these test case on remote machines. Right? Whether it is parallel, whether it is happening in parallel or is it happening in a sequence, that will be decided by test engine. Grid is just going to distribute it on the remote machine. So at times it happens like we need to do browser compatibility testing. And even in manual testing, we do BCT testing. So what is that browser compatibility testing? We need to test the same set of test cases are working fine on Chrome, on Firefox, on Edge, on Linux, on Mac, on Windows, right? Because client wants that these test cases should be working fine on all machines, on all major browsers. So if we do that manually, then we have to allocate a lot of resources. Like one person should be automating on Mac, one person should be working on like Windows, one on Linux, one will be automating on Firefox, one will be automating on Chrome, one on Edge, right? And they're executing same test cases on all the machines, all different machines, all different browsers. So grid is actually going to automate this part. In grid, you'll not see any interference, any manual interference, or any physical resource is not required in grid. So grid is like something like this, where we have a combination of nodes plus hub. So it's like this is our main machine, hub. These are the node machines. So this is your hub. Hub could be any test server, you can say. And this is my window machine running Edge on it. This is my Linux machine running Firefox. This is node 2. This is node 1. This is a Mac machine running Chrome on it. This is node 3. And on an intranet, they are connected to the hub like this. And then we have our personal machine, our personal laptop, where we have all the test cases. So let's say this contains 1000 test cases. So what we do, we send the request to the hub machine that we are executing these test cases in parallel. And now we want to execute it on all these machines. So hub will distribute the test case for parallel execution on multiple machines. So it can happen that all 1,000 test cases will run on this, all 1,000 will run on this, and all 1,000 will run on this. Or you can distribute it. You can say 400 will run on this, 300 will run on this, 300 will run on this. So this will save your time, right? So let's say 1,000 test cases are taking 1 hour. If you divide it like this, it may gonna take less than 30 minutes, less than 20 minutes for executing all the 1,000 tests. And that too, there is no manual interference. So you can have n number of machines connected, send your test cases to Hub, and Hub is going to distribute based on you have defined parallel test, you have defined sequential. If sequential test is there, then first test will be executed, then second, then third, then fourth in a sequence. If parallel is there, then all the test cases will be executed in parallel. So whether you want to execute in parallel or sequential, that is not decided by grid. That is decided by your test engine framework. So this is another integration that we'll be doing with Selenium. Right. So this is what the third component, that is grid. Now, there are a lot of challenges that were seen in the very first version of Selenium, that is Selenium 1.0. And the major challenge was this coding library, RC. So why is this a major challenge? Because this library was a very limited library. Like I said, this is a coding library. So initially, they have created a class which is called as default Selenium. So this was one of the major class in Selenium RC. So this class, what class contains? What do we have inside class?
Data and functions.
Sorry,
Data and functions.
we have functions, we have data members, methods, right? Variables, data types, lot of things, right? So all these things combinedly we have inside a class. So they have created a class called as default Selenium, and in this class they have created various functions to automate your website. A function like when we are working in Java, we don't call these things as functions. We call them as methods. If you're working in JavaScript, Python, we call the same thing as function, right? So function, methods, both are same. So let's say they have created a method called as start. In this method, you have written some code. By the way, people who don't have any exposure to programming, right, don't even know ABC of what a class is, what a function is, don't worry at all, right? From the next session onwards, when you move to the core Java part, we're gonna study core Java from ABC, right? This is just for your understanding purpose, what level of programming that is required to work on Selenium, so that you should be able to understand Selenium is not a tool, it's just a programming part only, right? We are going to write a little bit of code today, but if you're not familiar with code, just try to understand the concept. That's it. Don't worry about what is class, what is function. I don't know. I'm not able to understand what is a class or a function. Don't worry. Just try to understand. Just try to grab as much as you can, right? Because this session will again be repeated once you're done with your core Java part. Then again, you'll be able to understand what these things are, right? But in case you have never worked on any programming, then don't worry. Just follow me as it is. And then from the next session, you'll be moving to the core Java concepts. Okay, so this is a start function, a start method. Let's say they have written some code inside this method. If you call this start method, it is going to launch a browser, right? And after launching browser, you need to navigate to some website. So they have created a method called as open. And in this, they have written some code. If you call this open method, it is going to navigate to that particular website that you're going to provide in the arguments of this method. Then after navigating to the website, you want to click on any link. So there's a method called as click. Then you want to type in the input box. There's a method called as type. You may want to get the title of the page. There's a method called as get title. Any action that you want to perform on a website, you're going to find one method in this particular library. But this was the only library. One single class, containing 100, 200 methods, not more than that. It's a very limited library, right? It's just a combination of a couple of methods, just not more than 200 methods over there in Selenium 1.0 in the RC library. Now let's say I started using Selenium. I got the access of this class. Now I want to check this start is working fine, open is working fine. So what I need to do is I need to call the start method from this class. Can anyone tell me how to call a method from a class?
Using the object,
Using the object. So what is the syntax? What should I write?
object dot method.
Object, like should I write object? How should I write it?
So class name, and then object
Class.
name, test
Object name
something, object name equal to new, and then class
equal
name,
to new.
and the constructor.
So this is the syntax, how we create an object of a class, right? So before we call any method from the class, before we call start, before we call open, before we call click, the very first thing we have to do is to create an object of a class. Till the time you don't create object, you'll not be able to call any method, any non-static. Don't worry about static, non-static. Just consider all these methods as non-static. So you'll not be able to call any method from this class till the time you have not created an object. And the statement for creating an object is this, right? So a lot of things in here as well inside this particular statement we'll be discussing, but this is a general syntax, how we create an object of a class. And then how we call a method. If I want to call start method, how to call it?
Obj dot start.
Obj.start. Yes. See, as a tester, we just need to know this much programming. We're gonna get this library, built-in library, when we work with Selenium. We're gonna get all classes, we're gonna get all methods, which are already created by some developers. And we just need to write basic programming code to create an object of a class and to call the method, that's it. Now, if you run this much code, what it is going to do? It is going to launch a browser. After launching a browser, if you want to navigate to the website, there's the method called as open. You call this method, you provide the website URL, http google.com. It will navigate to google.com. After this, you want to click on any link, obj.click. You want to type on an input box, obj.type. You want to get the title of the website, obj.getTitle. So one by one, you need to call all the methods and you can automate any website easily. So this was very, very simple to work on RC. As a tester, you just need to know this. Even if you're not good in programming, you just understand the syntax. You create an object of a class, call the method one by one, run it, and all the actions will be performed on the web page. This is how Selenium RC was created, right? So if I talk about this particular statement, where we are creating object of a class, what is an object inside this statement? Anyone? What's an object inside this statement?
Obj is the object.
New
OBJ.
defaults, new default Selenium.
Default Selenium, yeah.
New default
New
Selenium.
default Selenium or OBJ?
New default Selenium.
New default Selenium.
No, the
Default
object is
Selenium.
obj,
OBJ.
and yeah, the object is obj. The default Selenium is the class, and we use the operator which is
Default
activated.
Selenium is a class. OBJ is an object. Okay.
Object is
OBJ,
default Selenium with the bracket.
Okay.
OBJ is the
default
reference.
Selenium with the bracket.
Yes.
OBJ is the
Okay.
reference, and then default Selenium is basically the object.
Okay. So is this default Selenium is an object?
No. Sir.
No, it's a
No,
class.
no,
It's a
this is a
class.
class name, the neck.
Anything else we call this? Apart from class,
Data type.
data type. So this thing is actually called as a type. Right? This we call it as
Constructor.
Structure,
constructor,
Object.
right? So this is basically
the constructor.
constructor. This is, what is this?
Assignment operator.
Assignment operator. Correct. And what is this now?
Reference variable.
Variable. Variable.
Correct. This is reference variable. And this whole thing actually creates an object in the memory. Right? So don't worry, we are going to look at this thing practical as well. Then from next time, you're not going to say that OBJ is an object. OBJ is not an object. An object is always created whenever we say new default Selenium. OBJ is just holding the address of an object which is created by this part. Right? We are assigning this to OBJ with the help of assignment operator. And this thing is the type. You can call it as a data type, you can call it as a type, or you can also call it as a class name. Right? So let us look at this thing practically, because what happens is previously people used to write Java code in Notepad, but time has changed. There are many editors available in the market with artificial intelligence, right? If you're not good in coding, these editors help us a lot in writing code. If you make any mistake, they provide us suggestions. If there are hundreds of methods inside the class, we need not to learn all the methods. We just simply say obj dot. It will show us list of all the methods, and we can easily pick the methods from there, and then we'll also be able to see the definition of what that method is doing. So all these things are provided by editors, which are open source, which are paid. Some are paid, like IntelliJ is there, NetBeans is there, WebStorm is there, Eclipse is there. Eclipse is very popular in the industry. Even IntelliJ is popular, but majorly organizations, people are using Eclipse. So we are using Eclipse in the training. If you want to work on IntelliJ, you can use IntelliJ as well, or any editor that your company is using, you can use that editor as well. But here we are going to use Eclipse because it's completely open source and very easy to use. So we'll be working on Eclipse IDE. IDE is not like Selenium IDE, it's an integrated development environment. But there is a prerequisite to get started with Eclipse. You need to have Java installed on your machine. Java as in JDK, Java Development Kit. So which version to install? The latest version is, I guess, Java 20 or so. You should not be installing the latest version. You should be installing the most stable version, which is supported by all major integrations, right? So previously it was Java 8, that is JDK 1.8, but now many integrations have stopped using Java 8. So we'll be working on Java 11. JDK 11. This is the most stable version, right? So what you'll be doing, installing Java, it's very, very simple. Simply say download JDK 11. Go to this. This is by Oracle. So if you go down, you're going to see this is your development kit. It works. It is supported on Linux, Mac, whichever operating system you are using, you'll be getting that file accordingly. If you are working on Mac, you can use this DMG file. You'll get this DMG for a 64-bit Mac OS. We are on Windows right now. We are seeing this thing on Windows. So Windows 64-bit will be downloading this exe. Installing Java is very, very simple. You're gonna get this exe file. Once you click on this, the very first time if you're doing it, it may gonna show you this screen. Click on this, download, and it may not directly download on your machine. It will ask you to create an Oracle login. So first you need to create a simple, a free account, and then it will download that exe file. So once the exe is downloaded, it is going to look something like this. I've already recently installed, not Java 16, I've installed Java 11 itself. Yeah, this is Java 11. So just double click on it, next, Java gets installed on your machine. A very, very simple installation, right? Like you're installing a simple software. Once you install this, you're going to find Java inside, C drive, program files. You're going to see a folder of Java over here. Open this. you'll find JDK 11. Open this, you'll find Java inside the bin folder. You'll go down, you'll see Java over here. Now, there are a lot of integrations we'll be doing with Selenium, like you may have heard about Jenkins, Maven, Git, and number of components we'll be using with Selenium, even Eclipse. So these components will not gonna work till the time they won't find Java on your machine. So Java is at this location. We need to tell all those programs where Java is on our machine. So instead of telling each and every program, the best thing is to configure Java globally on our machine, so that any program that may need access of Java can get it from that global location. For that, we need to set up some environment variables. So global system environment variables. How we do that? Just go to your search and type edit. This is a shortcut. So click on this and click on environment variables. You'll see two things. One is user variable, one is system variable. You'll not be doing anything in the user variable. You'll be doing everything in the system variable. So these are your global system settings, right? And you need to be very careful while doing these settings. If you by default you delete anything or modify anything, then it may interrupt the existing running program or may corrupt your Windows as well. Because you can see system 32 and a lot of other crucial configuration is by default done over here when you install your Windows, right? So what you need to do, simply click on new and create a new variable with the name Java underscore home. And just find the root part of your JDK folder. Copy this, the JDK folder path, and paste it over here. Click on OK. You'll see a Java home variable created, which is holding the address of JDK folder. Now go down. The configuration is still not complete till the time you click on this path variable. Click on edit. You see a lot of things over here. Without touching any other thing, click on new. At the end, type percentage Java underscore home percentage. So when you type this, this is going to bring the path of this JDK 11, the value that you have stored in this Java home variable. So this value will be called over here. And then where is Java inside this JDK folder? It is inside the bin folder. So just simply say right click, backslash and bin. Like I've already done it over here. So I'm not going to redo it. Let me delete this. Once you're done with this, click on OK, click on OK. And Java is successfully configured. Now go to command prompt and type Java -version. Will show you the current version of Java on your machine, like mine is Java 11. So once you're done with this, we'll now gonna download the editor by saying download Eclipse. Click on this and we'll be downloading the latest version of Eclipse. Not from here, click on download packages. You'll see a lot of components in Eclipse because Eclipse is just an editor. It supports C++ language as well. You can write PHP code as well. You can write Ruby, Python, and number of programming languages can be used with Eclipse. We'll be using Eclipse for a basic Java part. We'll be downloading this ID for enterprise Java and web developer. So we're going to click on this. And based on your operating system, Windows, Mac, Linux will be downloading it. Mine is Windows. I'm going to click on this. And here it's going to simply click on download or click on this from the nearby location, server location, it will be downloaded. And this file is more than a 300 MB file. If you have Java 20 installed, then how you downgrade? You are not going to downgrade it. You'll be going to control panel. You're going to click on uninstall a program and just look for all components of Java that you see over here. So in my case, there is Java, this is Java. Simply click on this and click on uninstall. This will uninstall your Java 20, right? And don't worry, no programs will be interrupted. So just uninstall it and install Java 11. That's it. That is what you need to do. Right. So once you download this Eclipse, you're going to get a zip file. I recently downloaded this version itself, the latest version itself. So it is there inside my D drive softwares. And this is a zip file you're going to get. See, I recently downloaded this. And once you unzip it, you're going to see 2023-03 version. You're going to get a folder of Eclipse, open it. Nothing installable. This is the application. You just need to double click and it is going to launch Eclipse. If Java is not configured, you're going to get error over here itself because Eclipse will only run when you have this Java configured. Now, this it is the very first screen which will ask you to select directory as a workspace. Now, workspace is basically a location where you'll be maintaining your project code. Any piece of code you are going to write will be stored at some location on your disk. That is what workspace is. So I generally give it as a batch name. So I'm going to name this batch as batch May 2023 and click on launch. So it's going to take a few seconds and then Eclipse will be launched.
Sir, Java 19 will not support Eclipse because
Java 19 will support Eclipse, but it may not support other integrations that you'll do in future with Selenium.
okay. And sir, you said the Java 8, we call it as 1.8.
1.8, yeah, we call it as 1.8.
Okay.
Okay, so this is your welcome screen. Just close it, and this is how your Eclipse look like. Here you'll be creating new projects. Here you'll be writing some code, and here you're going to get the output of that code. So we're going to talk about Eclipse features as we proceed with the course. But right now, let's say what we need to do with Eclipse. So let's say this program, we may want to execute it. But before we execute this program, we need to understand that initially when we started this conversation, we have somewhere mentioned, okay, where is that line? Yeah, Selenium is not a tool. Selenium is an API. Selenium is a framework. Selenium is a library, right? We cannot see Selenium. We cannot install Selenium. So if Selenium is not a tool, then how Selenium looks like? Selenium is basically an API itself, right? So what is an API? Can anyone tell me? When I'm saying Selenium is an API, what exactly is an API? What do you understand by the term API? This is very important.
Sir, API is a code written by someone else that we don't know how it is written. We're just using that code for our requirement. So some APIs are free, some APIs are not free. Some APIs are online for available for online. Some APIs for offline. So it is application programming interface. So it acts as means some companies has exposed their APIs because they don't want that someone can go into database for security purpose.
Correct. So API itself is a huge terminology. It's in a shorter way, we can say it's basically a program that is developed by a third party, and we are just accessing the functionality of that program in a form of a library that is provided by that particular vendor. So that library we called it as an API, right? So it will be more clear once we start once we start implementing it with some practical example, because some people relate API with web services as well. Those are also APIs like REST APIs, so right, RESTful APIs. Those are also APIs, but API is basically a program which is created by some third party, and we let's say we are the first party, we are consuming that particular functionality without rewriting that program, you may say. Let's take a simple example to understand. Otherwise, you may gonna get confused. Some people who are very new, that what exactly is an API. So let's say, let me take a simple example. Let's say I'm a Java developer and I work with some XYZ.com organization. And here I got a task to design a calculator. Now, in a calculator, there are various operations available. I can add something, I can subtract something, I can multiply something, I can divide something, and so on. So as a developer, if I have to design a calculator, so what I'll be doing? I'll be writing some program. I'll be creating a class as a calculator. In this class, I'll be writing all these functionalities. Like if someone has to do addition, so I'll be creating addition function, addition method, and I'm going to write some code inside this so that if you call this function, it is going to add some numbers. Similarly, I'll create a subtraction code. I'll write some code inside this. If you call this, it is going to subtract some numbers. Same way, multiply. Same way, divide. Right? And so on. Let's say I've created the entire functionality inside this calculator class. And now I want to test whether addition is working fine or not, subtraction is working fine or not. So what I'll be doing, I'll be calling these methods from this class. So how to call addition method from a class? We have just seen, right? How to call this method from this calculator class? How are we going to do it?
Calculators.
Creating an object.
Creating object of this
Using
class.
object, yeah.
Correct. And the syntax is calculator obj equal to new calculator. In place of obj, I can also write some meaningful thing like calci, right? And then in order to call add, I'll say calci.add. So when I run this, it is going to execute the code, whatever it is written inside addition method, right? For adding some numbers. Similarly, I want to do subtraction, I'll say calci.subtract, calci.divide, calci.multiply, and so on. One by one, I can call all these methods and I can execute the code that is written inside these methods, right? So now let's say I have tested this functionality. And now I want that if the functionality is working absolutely fine, I want to release it to the end user as well. Because let's say some people are in India, some in US, some in UK, and one of the person, he wants to do some addition subtraction. So one of the, sorry, one of the ways he should create the entire code again. Let's say in addition method, I've written some 100 lines of code to add numbers. So if he want to do addition, subtraction, then he may gonna write that 100 lines of code again. So why he'll be doing that, putting up all the effort again, when I have already created this library and I want to publish this in the market. I don't want to charge anything. So I'll be launching it completely free of cost. I'll be launching it as an open source library. Now, open source does not only mean free of cost. Open source means that anyone can contribute into the development part of this project as well. Now, let's say some person from some part of the world, he really likes my project and he wants to enhance this project by adding a square root functionality, calculating percentage functionality, then he's most welcome. He can add those features in this, and then we'll be launching the next version of this calculator. Let's say initially I launched calculator version 1.0 with limited functionality. The new enhancements were done. Then I'll be releasing version 2.0 of this calculator project. That will have more functionalities available. But as an end user, if someone wants to do addition, subtraction, he'll not be paying anything. He just get access to this library and he should be calling the methods like this and can consume these methods in any of his projects he wants. So how all these things will be done? First, let's work as a Java developer and let's create a calculator project, right? In a very simple way to understand what exactly is an API. So let's go to Eclipse. Let's click on create a project. And from here, we'll be selecting Java project. Click on next. And let's give it some name. So let's call it as Calci project, any name that you can give. And make sure you are selecting Java 11 from here and click on finish. Click on open. And you have a simple Java project created over here, right? Here you will see one SRC folder, one JRE system library. So these are your Java inbuilt classes which are attached along with your project. Don't worry about what this thing is right now. So this is the main folder where you'll be writing your own code. So here, just right click and say new and click on class because we have to create a calculator class. So we'll be creating this class by giving a name as calculator with the capital C. Class name always starts from a capital letter. And then we're going to check this public static void main. Click on finish. And see, we got a sample code over here. This module.info is created by default. You don't need it, just delete it. Right? This is a sample code. So let us understand what this is. So these are the comments. You can just remove it. We have something in reddish color, something in black color. All these reddish color things are some predefined keywords, the reserved keywords of Java, like public, private, protracted. These things are called as access modifiers, access specifiers, right? We have something called as static, non-static, void, int, string, return type to a method. This thing is a method. This thing is a class, right? This is the body of this class. This class can contain n number of methods. This is a by default method, which is called the main method. So don't worry about what public is, what private, what static, what void is. We are going to study all these things. We have detailed lectures in core Java for all these topics. For the time being, we don't need to understand what these things are. So tell me, people who have not gone through the core Java training so far, just tell me, like the very first code that we execute in any programming language is to print something. So let's talk about C. How to print in C?
Using printf keyword.
Printf, correct. C++.
Cout.
Cout.
Yeah, correct. Core Java. How to do it in core Java?
System.out.println.
System.out.println, right? The very first program to print is hello world, right? So this is how we write hello world. This is the run button. You simply click on this and see hello world is executed. All right. So, but we are not here to print hello world. We are here to understand what an API is. For that, we'll be creating different methods called as one of the method is add. See, the method name always starts from a small letter. It's not like if I started with a capital letter, it is going to give any error. No. But there are some coding best practices, some coding standards that is followed everywhere in the industry that even Java follows. You can see main, the name is automatically started with a small letter, right? So class name, capital letter, small method name, small letter. There is something called as camel casing that is followed. Camel casing. What is this? Now, if we have some name, let's say some name combined with 3 words like the dark night. If I write it like this, it's not very readable. To make it readable, let's say this is a class name. I'll start it with a capital letter. So I'm going to say the in the capital letter, and any joining word will be in caps. So it will form up like a camel form, right? So this is what is camel casing. And now if it is a method name, first letter small, any joining letter will be in caps.
Capital.
So you can see if you read anyone else's project, any developer's project, you should be able to understand, okay, this is a method he has used. This is a class he has used, right? Because everyone follows the same pattern. So the code becomes more readable. Now, let's say I am creating this addition method and I'm going to write some very complex code to add some numbers. For the timing, let's say we have not started programming right now. So we're just going to print something. Print, let's say, adding some numbers. So when you call the addition method, it is going to print adding some numbers. Same way, if I copy this and create more methods over here, like after addition, we'll be implementing subtraction. We're going to write some code for subtracting some numbers, then division, then multiplication. So this is going to divide some numbers. This is going to multiply some numbers, and so on. Let's say I've completed the entire project. Now I want to test whether addition is working fine, subtraction is working fine, all these things are working fine. So what I'll do, I'll go inside the main method because this is the area where the execution starts, right? So if, let's say we have executed hello world program. So we have written inside over here. So anything you need to execute, that has to be inside this method itself, right? So let's say I want to call addition method. So how are we going to call it? We have just seen by creating object of this class. So we're going to copy this statement, paste it here, and see, no errors. This is a correct statement. If I, by mistake, if I write calculators over here, you can see this is highlighted with red color. Now Eclipse is not able to understand what this calculator is. If you mouse over, it says create a class calculators. Why we want to create calculators when we already have calculators? So then it says change to calculator. But before that, you can see it is saying calculators cannot be resolved to a type. So this thing is actually called as a type, right? Let's click on this and it changed back to calculator. You can see this thing when we discuss what is this is a type, right? And now when I say calci dot, it will show me a list of all the methods we have created, like addition is there, division is there, then multiplication is there, subtraction is there. So if I call add, if I save this and run this, you're going to see adding some numbers is executed. Then we're going to call all other methods one by one, divide, subtract, multiply. And if I run this, all the functionalities that we have written is successfully executed, right? Now, there is one more method which has got a same name as of the class name. What we call it as?
Constructor.
Constructors. What are constructors?
These are functions, same name as the class, do not have any return type. They are initialize the objects.
Your voice is a little bit breaking, Nidhi.
They are actually used to initialize the objects.
Okay, correct. How about others? Guys, I really want to make this class very interactive so that you should not feel like that you are attending an online session. I want you to feel like that you are attending a classroom session. So ask any questions that you have, any silly question as well. Don't worry about it. Don't hesitate. Just let's make this session very interactive, right? So just think that I'm sitting in front of you. You can ask any questions you want. So yeah.
Constructor is responsible to initialize non-static variables.
Okay. Correct. How about others?
So it's like new operator is responsible to create the memory of the object after the constructor role comes into the picture. So
Correct.
it will initialize the we can say it will give the value to the variables.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So this is a little more technical for the new people to understand right now. But yes, this is how it actually works. So in a simple term, so you for the timing, you can just think that this is like a method only, which is having a same name as of the class name. And this is the very first thing that will be called as you create an object of a class, right? So let's say if I'm saying this is like a method, I can write some code inside this method as well. I can say calling constructor. So let's say how we're going to call it. If this is a method, I would have called it like this, calci dot. I'm not getting calculator. See, I'm not getting calculator. Why? Because this is not a method, right? This is now not how we explicitly we need to call constructor. It is automatically called as soon as you create an object of a class. Even if you don't write these methods, call these methods, here you are creating object of a class, just click on the run button. The very first thing that will be called is the constructor, right? So as soon as you create an object, now we were discussing about what exactly is an object in this statement. Many people were saying calci is an object. Many people were saying new calculator is an object. Let's do one thing. Sorry. So let's remove this line, remove this part. Still, this is a valid statement. There are no errors over here, right? So no errors. This is still a valid statement. So now if this is an object, if I click on the run button, then the constructor should be called, right? Tell me whether the constructor will be called or not if I click on run button.
So it will not execute.
Will not.
It will not execute or it will not call constructor.
Yes, sir.
Will not call construction.
It will not call. Anyone who says that the constructor will be called? No one. That's correct. See, if I click on run, it's not calling anything. So it means this is not an object. Now, if I remove this, see, still it is a valid statement, no errors. Now tell me, if I run this, whether the constructor will be called or not.
Yes.
So
okay.
it will show the compile time error because if we did not declare the class name and the variable name
Well,
initially.
if we don't declare the type and the variable, then it is going to throw compile time error. But this, I've already saved it. It is already compiled as soon as you save it. There is no compile time error.
So first we have to declare that one. Otherwise
so-
it cannot execute. Means I don't
Otherwise,
need
This will,
runtime.
this will,
So you mean to say on
runtime. Yes,
runtime,
runtime error. Yes, sir.
runtime. When we click on run button, then it is going to throw error.
Yes.
Okay. So how about others? Whether the constructor will be called or not?
Constructor
It
will be
will
called
call,
because it is
but we
called by
don't have-
default.
yeah, but we don't have reference, like where which object, where's the object we have to refer. That will not be
Yeah.
known.
Let's run it and see. See, as soon as you say new calculator, the constructor will be called by default. See, calling constructor, right? So this is where the object, this statement is creating an object. Then if this is an object, then why we need that CLC or why we need OBJ? Why, what is the need of this? Why we need this? Why not just new calculator?
So it will store the address of the object. In
Why
that-
it is
It's a-
required?
It's a reference, like, see, to know, to call a person, we need a name, right? Without a name or like knowing that we cannot say hey every time. So that's what it does. It's referencing the object which is created with that name.
The name given to the memory location where it is located.
Why we need that? Just to
To
call
follow the method, we need
Call the
reference
method.
variable.
correct. So it means if I want to call this addition method, I should have some name, some variable, right? So like calci.add, calci.divide. Without that name, without that variable, I cannot call addition method from this class. Or can I? Can I call addition method without that variable?
No, because it would need an object of the class because that function is a part
So
of
object is this. Object is this. I am talking about that calci. Without this calci, can I call addition? Can I call subtraction without calci?
Yes, we can.
Don't worry about static, non-static. I'm talking about these methods only.
By
Can I call
calculator
addition?
dot add. Calculator dot.
Correct.
So
I can still call it. See, new calculator dot add. And if I run this, you're gonna see adding some numbers is called, right? Now, what if I want to call subtraction? I again need to do it like this. New calculator dot subtract, new calculator dot divide, new calculator dot multiply. And now what it is doing, if I run this, you'll see all the methods are called, but constructor is called along with all the methods. It means in these four statements, 4 objects are created in the memory. So if we have to call 100 methods, are we going to create 100 objects? No. We want only one object to be created and all the methods to be called from the same object reference. So what we'll do, we're going to create a variable, let's say ABC, D, anything you can give it a name. A variable can have any name. So we generally give it a meaningful name and then we assign this address of the object to this variable. Now every variable must have some type. Like in Java, if you are storing a value called as, let's say 100, in some variable value equal to 100, what is the type in which you are going to store this?
INT.
Int, right? Integer type. Can I store my name in this integer type like Rahul? Can I
No.
store this? No. What will be the type?
string.
Varchar.
String. So it means every value has its own type. If you're storing numbers, it will be integer. If you're storing some character words, that will be stored in a string format. Now, what is this string? What is string in Java?
So string is a collection of words, not
Collection of
words, alphabets.
alphabet.
Anything on the keyboard. can be
Sorry,
stored in
sir,
this
characters, sir.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So anything except this? Anything except collection of characters, words, it's a class.
It is a class.
It is a
Correct.
class also.
String is also a class. If you do a mouse over on string, it will tell you the string class.
Yes.
The string is also a class. If this is a class, then what is value for this class?
object.
Object reference. So if you do reference dot, then you should be able to see all the methods inside this string class. See, all the methods belongs to string class. Same thing when you are storing this thing in a variable. It will not be of a string type. It will not be of an int type. It will always be of its class type. So that is the reason why we call it as a type. So this is a type because it is holding the address of this object, right? Here it is holding the string values, which is collection of characters or words, whatever you say. And if you are storing some numbers, then the type will be integer. So that is the reason we call it as a type. So this is a type. This is a variable, a reference, an object reference. This is an assignment operator. This is a new keyword. This whole thing is this is a constructor, and this whole thing is creating an object in a memory. And when an object is created, the constructor will be called. And now, when with this reference, if you call the methods, then only and only one object will be created, and all the methods will be called from the same object reference. So if you run this, you're going to see calling constructor is called once, and then all the methods are called without recreating the objects. Right? So this is a very basic concept. We'll be studying this in the Java part as well, but not now. Let's say I have tested all the methods are working fine. I've tested, there is no issue in addition, division, all these things. And now I want to publish this project in the market so that end user can take a benefit of this. And he should not be recreating addition, division. Let's say we have created 500 lines of code over here. So I don't want that end user, if you want to implement addition functionality, then he has to write the complete code again. So what I'll do, I'll right click on my project. I'll go to export. I'll select Java, click jar file. And here I'll be giving some name to this jar file. Let's say calculator version 1.0, the very first version of my project. And I'll say .jar. And I'll be storing it on my desktop over here. And click on finish. Now you're going to see this calculator jar is created. So now can I double click on it and install calculator on my machine? No, it is not going to do any installation, right? This jar will only tell what all methods are there, what all classes are there in this project. Even if I have not given access to see what code is written inside addition method, you will not be able to see that code, right? You'll simply be able to access that method without looking at the internal implementation. But in an open source project, people give away their code as well. Because open source means anyone can look into the code and can contribute into the development part as well. Now, I'll upload this jar file on my website because website can be accessed from any part of the world. So next time anyone want to do addition, subtraction, he can go to my website, download this jar file and implement in his project. So now, I guess we are almost running out of time. So we are going to take at least 10 minutes more. We are only left with one more topic. So at least 10 minutes more, just hang on. And the interesting part is going to come now. So let's say this calculator, this project I have created. And after that, guys, please put yourself on mute.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay. So let's say after creating this project, I left this organization. So I'm going to close this project. And now I join a new company, a new organization. Let's say I join American Express. So their banking application was developed in Java itself. So let's say they have their own Java project. I name it as MX project and click on finish. So they have their own application banking domain, which is implemented in Java. And I was hired in between of this project. So let's say there was a class called as banking. And in this class, they have implemented some functionality called profit, some functionality called loss. And there was, let's create a main method as well over here. So I was hired in between of this project. And they asked me to implement a functionality that could add salaries for n number of employees. So something related to I need to create an add method over here. Now, if I talk about logic of this addition method, this is similar to what I've created in my previous organization in calculator project. So I can easily do it, but that was a little lengthy code, some 500 lines of code. I can do it, but it is going to take some days to finish that code. So that is one way. The other way is without why I should rewrite that code when it is already available in that calculator project, and that is an open source project. So I can go to my company's website and I can download that jar file and I can add that jar file in my project just by right clicking on it, say build path, add external archives and select the jar file. And as soon as I've added that jar file, it added in my reference library. If you open this, you're going to find that calculator class. You're going to find all the methods showing up over here. But I cannot see the code of addition method, but I can access addition method now. How? Just by creating an object of that calculator class. Just go over here, say calculator, calc equal to new calculator. And see, I'm not getting any error. Banking is able to understand what this calculator is. And now if I do calc dot add. See, I can access all the methods as well. So let's change this method name to add salary. And I've implemented add salary without rewriting the code with the help of this library. Now, if you call this add salary, how will you call it? By creating an object of banking class. So go to main method, say banking b equal to new banking, and just call b dot add salary. So if you run this, you'll see without creating the entire addition functionality again, you are able to implement this addition in your project with the help of this jar file, which is created by a third party organization. So if we talk about this jar file, this is what an API is to this Amex project. And if you're talking about Selenium, Selenium is one of the same thing. In the same project, I can just right click, go to build path, add external archives, and wherever we have downloaded, we have not yet downloaded Selenium. So how to get that Selenium jar from the main website of Selenium? Which is the main website of Selenium? Can anyone tell me the website of Selenium?
Selenium.
Selenium HQ is an old website.
Selenium.dev.
Selenium.dev, correct. Selenium.dev. So you can see Selenium automates browsers. That's it. Selenium is only for web-based testing, not for desktop and other applications, right? Go to download. This is the latest version of Selenium, that is 4.9.0. Simply click on this. And when you click on this, see what you are getting. One single jar file of 29 MB. That's it. This is what you need to work on Selenium without paying any cost. We just downloaded this jar file. And now when we have downloaded this jar file, we'll just right click on our project. Say go to build path, add external archives, download, and we'll select this jar. This is 4.9.0. That's it. And now I can automate any website in the world. How? See, banking calculator jar file contains which class? Calculator class. Selenium jar file contains which class? Chrome driver class. So you'll say Chrome driver equal to new Chrome driver. Just create an object of that class. That's it. See, no errors. Now what will happen if I run this? See, as soon as I click on run, you can see a browser is launched. See, just by adding the jar file and calling Chrome driver, creating an object of Chrome driver class has launched a browser. So where that code is written for launching browser, maybe some developer has written 400-500 lines of code to launch the browser. But where is that code written? Can anyone tell me where is that code written? Anyone?
In the jar file.
In the jar file, correct. Where inside the jar file? So code is there in this jar file. Like addition code was there in calculator jar file. So launching browser code is there in this jar file. But where inside this jar file? Where? Where inside this jar?
Chrome driver class.
Chrome driver class. Correct. Where inside the Chrome driver class?
Function to launch Chrome browser.
Yeah, where? Where? What do we have inside class?
Method to open browser.
Method open browser. But have we called any method?
No, you only
That's
called
where
the constructor.
constructor, correct. So the code for launching the browser is written inside the constructor itself. So even if you don't write this and just create an object of the class and click on run, the very first thing that is called is the constructor, and inside the constructor itself, the code is written to launch the browser. And we are not worried about what code is written and how much complex the code is, because we are not going to develop Selenium. Selenium is already developed. All the classes, methods, everything is already there. and it's working absolutely fine. Many CMM 5 level companies are using Selenium. Big companies, Google, Microsoft, they are using Selenium in their automation project. So it is fully tested. So we need not to worry about what code is written inside these methods or the constructor. As a tester, we'll simply be creating an object of this class. And now if you want to call more methods, we need this reference because after launching browser, we want to navigate to any website. So how to do that? Driver dot see, we got list of all the methods. So one of the method we'll be picking from here is get, and it is asking for URL in the string format, means double quote. So I'm going to give it http waytoautomation.com, save this, run this again, and this time it will launch a browser, will navigate to waytoautomation.com.
Sir, if function every method is written in jar, then anyone can hack the functionality of the company.
See, it's an open source. So you are downloading it, you are getting access to all the code, you're getting access to all the functionality. If you want to do changes in this jar file, you can do it, but this jar file is for your personal use only. Now,
Okay.
you are not hacking their website. You are just downloading the jar file and then doing changes in this jar file.
But sir, means I'm not only talking about Selenium. If because any company expose their API and API are in the form of jars, so
Mhm.
they are exposing their codes, means their whole functionality, how they are writing the code, means methods and
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So it depends on functionality to functionality. Now, if some banking project is there, they're not going to expose the code. They're just going to expose the functions, right? So you have these functions where you can add, deposit some amount, withdraw some amount, right? But they're not going to show you the code that they have written for withdrawing or depositing the amount. So it depends on what API that you're consuming. So Selenium, it's an open source API. So you can access all the functionality, the methods, and you can consume it in your project. Now, same way, we have Selenium. We can go to, let's say we want to include API automation as well. So API automation is another jar file. So you go to, there's a common repository called as ambient repository. Just search for rest assured and you get this, and you get this version, latest version, download this bundle, and see you got rest assured jar file. You want to automate mobile application, search for Java client. This is by APM. See Java client for APM mobile driver. Click on this, click on this, click on this. You got APM jar. You want to automate database testing, search for MySQL. See, all these vendors, they provide their own APIs in a form of jar file, in a form of Maven dependency. You download these jars one by one. In the same project, just right click, build path, add external archives, add all these jars. Now what these jar contains, rest assured contain. So once this is added, rest assured contain classes, which you call automate web services. This Java client, I think I have not added Java client. So Java client is for, let's say, go to build path, add external archives. This is Java client. So we added this. Now we can call mobile automation classes. We can automate Android and iOS real devices, iPhone devices, right? We have added this MySQL. I can connect to database, write some SQL queries, and get the response over here, validate it from my website or API or mobile, anything, right? In one single project. Now let's assume this is a Cucumber project, BDD project. I can use any of these and my Cucumber BDD will remain same. So no matter if you are learning it in a API training as well, in the API training as well, Cucumber project will be this, and just the API jar is added. In the same project, you add Selenium jar, you can automate this. The code of Cucumber will gonna remain the same, right? So that's what I said in beginning. No matter if you're learning it in API as well, Cucumber code, Cucumber jar will remain same. right? Page objects will remain same for mobile part, for UI part, for database, anything that you are running. So in a single project, you can handle all these automation. Whereas if we talk about other automation tool, QTP, UFT, you can only automate desktop. But when you use Selenium, you can do all these integrations in one single project. So that is the only reason why Selenium is very popular in the industry, because anything feasible in Java can be integrated using Selenium. Right? So this is one of the best.
How integrate with desktop app, because desktop application we don't use.
Desktop application, we have WinApp driver. So if you go over here, WinApp driver is another library. WinApp driver. So I guess they have not committed their jar file over here, but if you search for WinApp driver, you'll see started by Microsoft is an open source framework for desktop application testing. So you need to search this library here. You'll be getting that jar file somewhere over here. So you can download this jar file, add it in your project. We're gonna find it over here.
So when they have created the jar files, where they upload the jar files for any?
They upload it in their own library itself. They upload it in this MVN repository, that is Maven repository. This is a centralized location where all the jar files, you're going to find it over here. But you can see this through this, you can automate calculator, notepad, alarm clock, all these things on your desktop application as well, using finding elements technique. Now, what is this finding element? This is coming from Selenium itself. If you check the very first code that we have Google test created, so we'll see over here, find element. This is what works in Selenium. This is what works in APM. This is what works in WinApp driver. So all these are wrapper over your Selenium WebDriver itself. So that is the reason why Selenium is base. So once your base is built up, so all the other tools, you'll find it similar to Selenium only.
Okay.
Right.
MVN is a web server.
All right, so I guess we are done with our today's session. So this is like a small overview of what exactly Selenium is. Now you should be able to understand that Selenium is not a tool that you will be installing it. It's just a collection of classes, methods, which you need to consume it in your project, and then you can automate any website of your choice. Right?
Yeah.
So I hope that you have enjoyed today's session and you have not got bored.
No. Thank you, Rahul, for interactive session.
Sure. So yeah, I'll be sharing all the information. So today's session recording will be uploaded soon, and I'll be sharing it to your email ID. And then we'll be forming up a WhatsApp group for the new batch of like the new people who will be starting with the Java part. And for the Selenium guys, you'll be remaining in the same WhatsApp group, but the new meeting invite will be shared. And I guess people who have already joined, you must have access to all these courses and the WhatsApp group. And do add yourself to the Telegram group as well, because that is for the wider audience. And WhatsApp, I guess we have some limited people added. So just add yourself to the lifetime membership Telegram group as well. So these information must have been shared initially when you have enrolled. And if people who are not yet enrolled, you can directly do it from the website. Go to waytoautomation.com. And here you just need to click on this lifetime membership. And from here, you need to enroll. So this is just one-time enrollment. For the lifetime, you will not be paying anything, and you'll be attending all the courses that we have. Right?
Java has also started today.
Sorry?
Java has also started by other
Yeah,
faculty.
Java is going to start from coming Saturday. That is, today is 7th. So from 14th May, from 13th May next Saturday, Java is going to start from day one.
Okay. And what is the
Right.
practice timeline?
Yeah, I'll be sharing the syllabus to your email ID itself. So I'm gonna share it. Just yeah. So don't worry about it. I'll share the syllabus. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for joining. I hope you have enjoyed the session.
Yes, sir. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Rahul.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Thanks.
Rahul.
Get enrolled
you.
into the Java course. Where do we need to?
You'll be getting the meeting invites on your mail ID. So don't worry about that. Like if you have joined the Telegram link as well, I'll be sharing it over there as well. Or otherwise, just like wait for my email for the Java WhatsApp group to be created, and then I'll share the meeting invites over there.
Where we can find the Telegram link?
Telegram link must be sent on your email ID initial when you have registered. If you have not yet received it, then just ping me on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is this.
I have that, sir. I have that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is my WhatsApp number. So just ping me on this number, and I'll send you the Telegram link.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Karan, you should be able to follow it in IntelliJ as well. So any editor that supports basic Java, you should be able to work on it. All right, guys. Thank you. Then we are done with the day. So I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you all.
Okay. Bye bye.
Rahul,
Thank you.
one quick
Bye-bye.
question.
Thank
Are you
you.
going to upload this video?
Yeah, I'll be uploading it and sharing it soon.
Okay, thank you.
So the timings will be the same every week?
Yeah,
like today?
timings will gonna remain same, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. India time, every Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
All right, sure. Thank you all.